So this video is going to show how to install the radio upgrade into a Tahoe, or as this is a GMC Yukon. Also applies to GMC and Chevy trucks. So first thing we're going to do, turn off and remove the trim piece. I use a plastic wedge tool to get in between the plastic and the dash. Once you get it in, just pry it out. And it is hard to get out. Makes you think it's going to break. It finally pops out of the spring clips. It's just spring clips to hold this in. Then we just remove all the screws from all the controls up and down. It's a total of 8. And I'm just using a socket drive. To pull these out. And the last one. And these just kind of pull out, sit out of the way. Radio pulls out. In the back, we're going to unplug. Plug one. And satellite radio plug for the antenna. 2. And the antenna can be kind of tricky because you have to push in and pull out. It's never as easy as it seems. And then the last little yellow plug. Back of the radio. And you notice in the dash, these are our plugs. We're not going to use this one because we do not support satellite radio, and the antenna. So these are the 3 we're going to plug in. First step, and a lot of people forget the first step. Read the top, remove the 2 packing screws. These hold the seating mechanism in place during shipment so it doesn't bounce around a lot. Other question I get, the back of the radio does not have plugs that fit into what's left in the dash. That's because we're going to use our harness. Harness comes with everything we need to plug into the dash using our plugs to fit in, as well as the speaker. So we're going to see what fits where. So find the ones that plug in and fit and plug those in. If you don't have one that plugs in and fits, then you don't need it. So this one we won't be using because we don't have that plug. And this is going to plug into our radio. So look at the back. Big black plug. For all the power, plugs in here. And you have to push it in kind of hard. Make sure it gets a good, strong connection. And then the blue, we're going to plug in on the edge where the blue goes. So that's what it looks like so far. Notice all the additional optional audio and video inputs and outputs. The CAN bus decoder. This is what allows the steering wheel controls and things like that to work. And here we've got a little speaker which gives us our tones, turn signals, and things like that. Now this is sometimes loud. People think this can be a little bit too loud. If it is loud, cover up 2/3 of it with tape so it won't be so loud, but it is going to go back in your dash. So this little wire plugs into this little wire that's left here by the CAN bus adapter. And it should only plug one way. Get it lined up. And plugged in place. Now we do still have our antenna wire. For that we have an antenna adapter. These are more RCA outputs, optional. We have the optional backup camera input. And then we've got optional accessories for inputs, outputs, Wi-Fi cables, iPod cables, things like that. We're going to open this. So that's an optional harness we don't need. We do need the satellite antenna. And we're not going to use our inputs and outputs. So satellite antenna and FM antenna are the last two we need that are required for the unit to function. So you notice this antenna fits right into our plug. Good contact. And this plugs into the antenna plug. Back of the radio. In solid. And the last one is our GPS. People ask, where do I mount this? Wherever it's going to get a good signal. Sometimes you can just stick it on top of the radio itself and it will get a good signal. Sometimes you have to write it on top of the dash, inside the dash, just depends on wherever you're going to get a good signal. Plugs it into the back. Now we're all wired in. So let's see if this antenna will be able to rest there. I'm going to put all my plugs and wires into the back, into the hole. So that they're out of the way, so the radio will sit flush. And see if I can keep the speaker up there. Sometimes it does take a bit of maneuvering to get all of our wires to sit back and behave out of the way. And are we sitting flush? No, we're not flush yet. I don't think it's the antenna. I think it's our cables. So we'll keep working them in the back till we get them pushed back enough and identify the one that's causing the problem. I think it was this antenna one. Push it back in. Push it back in from the bottom. Get everything tucked in out of the way. Almost. Now I think it might be our antenna, so for now I'm gonna put the antenna in the back, up high, out of the way. See if we get us a good signal. So now we're in pretty flush. Oh, we're not quite flush on that left. Again, we're just monkeying with the wires to get them all tucked away. Here's the problem, is the plug was out of the way. All tucked in, out of the way. Now we're tight. So now we're in flush. So hold this piece in. We can hold the air conditioner piece, which goes on top. And put a screw or two in top. to hold it in. Make sure it gets up and sits flush before you tighten them down all the way. Because you want your lines to be tight. And the last piece plugs into the bottom. Again, make sure it's lined up before you get it totally tight. So we're in. Now let's test it. You can hear the chimes coming from inside. A little bit loud. Might be something that's worthwhile to put some tape over those holes to quiet it down a little bit. We're booted up and it's setting the SD card. Looks good. Whoa. Turn the volume down a little bit. Got some static. So we'll go back to our band. Pick a station. Everything looks good. Go back to the different bands. Get on our memory presets. SRC is our source for the main menu. So different settings, radio. That's our navigation. We're inside the garage, so we're not going to pick up a signal on that. That's all there is to it. So now, snap our plate back on. Sometimes it's actually easier to put the bottom on first. So let's start down here. And let's turn it down so you don't have to hear the noise. Work your way up. You can find the spots where it plugs in. Push it solid. It's a lot easier to get on than it was to get off. There you go. Successfully installed.